Hello and welcome to my summary of what might have been the longest live letter we've had in quite a while. This of course covers the job action information and a lot more from the Final Fantasy XIV team today, the 16th of May 2024, leading up to Dawn Trail release. We've not got long now. This is live letter part 81. Essentially, first of all, we get the job action trailer. There'll be a link to that in the description. We're going to look at that in a future video, but we go into much further detail in the actual live letter itself. But if you want to go look at that, definitely worth a look. It looks fantastic. Some jobs get certainly more attention than others, in my opinion, but let me know what you think, what you're most excited for. First of all, we talk about the DDoS. Recently, the servers for Final Fantasy XIV globally have been under various DDoS attacks. Yoshi P mentions he believes this is the largest scale and length we've seen of this type of attack since the launch of the original Final Fantasy XIV. Of course, although this is the largest and longest period of these attacks, they have a large team working hard to protect us on a daily basis. They're working very hard internally as well with global vendors to see how they can future protect these forms of attacks. Up to 1,000 to 2,000 people are being disconnected at a time, they mentioned, and they apologize for this. We have not seen any permanent damage, however, to the servers this far, which is a good thing, and they're trying their best to apply the countermeasures and working hard to protect against it. They thank you for your comments and encouraging support and words, with the staff members working very hard throughout the entirety of this very busy period leading up to an expansion launch, and hope that they will continue to do so. For the benchmark software then, the benchmark software, as we know, came out for Dawn Trail. It wasn't perfect. There were issues with the character creation screen and the environment was not correct due to the Realm Reborn implementation of lighting. With the new changes to the way that mapping on character faces and things worked, the lighting was inappropriate. It didn't work very well, as well as some other visual bugs. They received plenty of feedback, they mentioned, on elements and have gone through and addressed what they can, in addition to bug fixes. They're trying to finalize these adjustments they're making right now, and Yoshi P mentioned that even at 1 p.m. today, the time of that recording, they had a meeting to address further points with the team, so this is ongoing. They show some screenshots of the changes here. This will actually be reflected not only in the benchmark software, but they will be put into the full expansion, so it's not a wasted effort, they mention. With this software, they say they can show the game off to PC vendors or for customers at venues beyond the game itself, so people can get an idea of character creation. This makes this a much more important and collaborative effort for them. The lighting is so much better here, as you can see. The environmental lighting has been heavily adjusted and brought up to spec. The character itself is basically unchanged in this example. Previously, it was set to be slightly cloudy with these environments from the Realm Reborn setting, but for some of the parameters, they were just simply not working how they should with the new textures. So they'll keep us updated on the release of this. Another additional thing is that moon cats, where are my moon Mikotes at? Your fangs are going back to being fangs again. Moon kitties everywhere rejoicing with meows as loud as possible. This was a decision they made to make the fangs longer, looking after the players with their various pieces of feedback. The male version here as well, slightly more subtle of a change, but you can tell the fangs are much more pronounced than the other pass that they had with the first benchmark. Face type 1 through 3 matches more to the original as it was in the game. 1 through 3 is the length of the teeth will look more like the one on the left, and apparently mouth type number 4 will look like the one on the right here. So you do have that variation of size depending on what face type you go for and mouth type. Lalafell teeth have also been addressed. They received plenty of feedback saying that Lalafells frankly looked quite scary with their teeth, kind of like a dolphin. So this too has changed. Thankfully, they look a lot better, I think you'll agree. They mentioned lines around the cheeks and mouths being visible, and that was some of the other feedback they got from players. With the lines on faces, this was mostly because of the lighting. The normal map was fine that they had, but the way that the shadow was being dropped with the previous lighting was not showing properly. When they changed this lighting, fighting, this actually looked way more obvious, and they had to go back and change the complete facial mapping completely to make it look better. So this is quite a big example of something they had to do, but they're going through it to make sure that their QA process is much more thorough than it was previously, and it's based on your feedback, so they thank you very heavily, as well as the development team who have noticed things when they went through that expansive QA process. The target date for the new benchmark is May the 30th or the 31st for that benchmark release. They say it's a target because they're not confident on the release timing of this. It may go beyond that weekend. It might fall on the Monday, for example, but as soon as they're confident with that release date, they will post it on the Lodestone, so that's cool. So the benchmark will be here before the release of Dawntrail. Fantasia news then. Upon the release of 7.0, a quest giver in Uldar will actually introduce you to the idea of Fantasias. This will reward you with one Fantasia. This allows players to customize their character how they wish with the changes, or for new players gives you an idea of what a Fantasia is and gives you one for free. Another Fantasia update related to character creation, which is a little bit more cryptic to sort of understand, is that there will be a new feature added to this. This will allow you to see your character in action in places you have seen before, they mention. This will make it so that when you use a Fantasia within 60 minutes of playtime, if you log out, that counter pauses. If you Fantasia, you can change your character where they were stood, presumably. I think that's what they meant, with not many more details given on that, but the idea of seeing your character in familiar environments is what they were going for. With then that 60-minute counter, you can basically, it counts down your time and you can make those minor adjustments. I think that's what they were going for, making minor adjustments on the fly and then seeing if they worked or not, but based on a location in the game. So that's a really big change. I especially like the addition of a free Fantasia. Who doesn't like free stuff? So then we're on to the meat and potatoes then, the job update section. Starting yesterday, they kicked off the media tour in Japan, and you will likely start to see articles soon on those impressions in early June. New actions added in accordance with the increased level cap, obviously, and they've made adjustments based on feedback and with the goal of improving ease of use. That is key to the changes they're making to jobs, bear that in mind. So action change settings have been added. There's a lot that you have to deal with putting actions into hotbars, they mention. They're reaching the limits for some controller players. So they want to mention that there will be a replacement system across the board for a lot of abilities to reduce that button load. However, they are trying their best not to increase the amount of icons going forward, yet not oversimplify it. With the jobs automatically replacing the same spot when you perform your actions, some players have mentioned they do not like the auto replacement feature, myself included before. They put then a new feature in that allows you to choose if you want it to be like this or still have these buttons separate. So you're allowed to have that button bloat if you want to, or you can have it automatically replace the button with the next line in that combo. This allows you to individually choose whether or not specific actions are actually changed and which ones are not, and obviously allows for your own freedom of customization. And you can access these settings when you want to prevent erroneous inputs from multiple button presses, or if you prefer that original control scheme, then you can go back to it, which is really nice. I like that. Now then, let's go into the deep dive into roles first, and then we're going to shorten that down into individual jobs. Overall, tank adjustments, Rampart and job exclusive 30% damage reduction abilities will be upgraded in the level 90s range. Reprisals duration will also be increased to 15 seconds in the 90s level range. So essentially, you'll see this across most of the roles actually, but specifically for tanks here, you'll see this across all of those damage reduction abilities. So key points for a Paladin: the second and third executions of Atonement have been changed to new actions with separate animations. Atonement will change to these actions, so input execution remains basically the same. It's just a visualization to differentiate those different actions. A new action, however, will be added that can be executed after Blade of Valor, so that's going to be exciting. So aside from minor things there, that's pretty much all they go for. Like, they just focus on the major bits and not a full dossier. Of course, that will be on the job guide page when they update that on the Lodestone itself under the guide section. For Warrior then, a new action which can be executed after 3 executions of Fell Cleave or Decimate while Inner Release is active will be added. So this is a follow-up to that combo, which is exciting. You might have seen that in the job trailer. A new action that can be executed after Primal Rend will also be added. And they're also changing the looks of some abilities, not Fell Cleave, because they understand how much we love that, will actually be improved as well, so that things don't look as samey as before and things look enhanced, obviously, to reflect those new job changes and the new actions that things change into for Dawntrail. For Dark Knight then, they say to reduce the number of inputs during burst damage phases, Blood Weapon will upgrade into Delirium, and the effect of Blood Weapon will be added to Delirium. The reason they say is to clean up and streamline some of that busyness, they say, for that burst phase. They want to improve how players can strategize through 7.0 better. Also, a new action that can be executed after Living Shadow is being added, and they are also making adjustments to Living Shadow itself, so you won't need to consume black blood to execute, which is a very interesting one. I can't wait to see how that works out. Gunbreaker then, for our final tank, a new action that can be executed after Fated Circle via continuation will be added called End of Heart, which is pretty awesome. A new 3-step combo that can be executed after Bloodfest will be added with no cartridge cost, and apparently when you execute No Mercy, it will go straight into Ready to Break. So some nice changes there. We'll have to see how that shapes up with all of the other changes they've not documented here. So on to melee DPS. Adjustments then to melee DPS across the board as a role include Second Wind's healing potency will be increased in the level 90s range. Feint duration is increased to 15 seconds in the level 90s range. Again, reflective of the tank changes as well, increasing the duration of those defensives. First off then, they talk about Monk. The basic combo mechanics will no longer center around maintaining a buff or damage over time. Instead, you're performing actions in a certain order that will increase the next action's potency. The feel for the job, they say, will remain largely the same, while alleviating uncertainty about which action to use when the rotation is interrupted. For example, they say when you use Dragon Kick, Boot Shine will get enhanced, and so on. They are trying not to oversimplify Monk, but they want to streamline it. They hope it won't change the feel of the actions. The job HUD will also have additional elements on it, which will hopefully make it smoother and more improved from that before, and make it easier to tell where you are and where to go in terms of your action execution. They can accumulate up to a total of 10 chakra also whilst Brotherhood is active to prevent chakra overflow, an extra point there. Overall, I need to see what that's like in the game to see what difference that's made, but it sounds pretty beefy, and it could be a significant change for Monk across the board. Dragoon then, to reduce positional requirements for the single target combo, the Thief combo action has been changed to a new non-directional action known as Drake's Bane. Fang and Claw Wheeling Thrust will change to Drake's Bane, so input execution will remain the same, obviously without that directional requirement. To facilitate maximum damage output at the beginning of a battle, Life of the Dragon will be available without accumulating Dragon Gauge. And to reduce the number of inputs during burst damage phases, certain actions will be removed or adjusted. They say people were expecting an overhaul to Dragoon, but they wanted to streamline the job whilst keeping it and its playstyle close to the current version. So they apologize to people who expected a full overhaul. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Dragoon plays out. Ninja then, the first thing you might have noticed from the job action trailer was the sort of absence of Huton. Huton's effect has been moved now to a trait that will always be active. Huton will be changed to an AoE attack which grants the effect of Hidden. So this basically is giving you permanent haste. So probably less to do pre-pull of a boss, and you might have seen the combo before pre-pull has completely gone. So a new HUD element will be present for the new attack. And they say actions which extend the duration of Huton will be adjusted in accordance with this change. They don't specify what those are yet, but you can imagine some might be removed and some might be give something else to something else, I don't know. Samurai then, to simplify the recast management, Tsubame Geishi, I'm trying my best with pronunciation, will be changed to be executable after Meikyo Shisui. Hakaze, Tenga Goken, and Midare Setsugeka will be upgraded into new actions, of course, because there are new abilities added to the job. Reaper then, Plentiful Harvest effect will no longer increase the shroud gauge by 50. This will now instead allow execution of Enshroud. Now this can be used when the gauge is at 51 or more without waste. They say a new action will be added additionally that can be executed whilst Enshrouded is also active. So there we go. Viper then. So for this, they say it's a fast-paced job that fluidly shifts between dual-blade and double-bladed strikes in their various combos and abilities. It has similar total number of actions to other melee jobs, but designed so that fewer actions need to be set on the hotbar. They show it now in the game for you. So they mention how you will have to weave between skills in the actual game for a rotation, but they just wanted to demonstrate the abilities here. So the job gauge fills up as you do your abilities, and when you get enough of those, you get a boosted mode, which they call Reawaken. This allows you to use some of your double-bladed abilities. It's designed to get more exhilarating the further into the battle you actually get, starting off slow and ramping up, and as you can see, being more frantic as that gauge builds until that huge release of abilities when you enter Reawaken rather. When Reawaken is active, the cooldown is 2 seconds, but you have to execute the double-bladed abilities without wasting the recast time before it starts to count back down. Some of the abilities on the right of your hotbar there are your AoE attacks, so you have both your single target and AoE abilities with double-bladed mode, buffs and debuffs on the targets, and obviously on you will affect how you execute some of your abilities. So they open with a double-bladed action, and then from that they branch into 2 more actions, and you can choose which one you go down, and then gives you a choice of more options and continue down that path, which lights up other actions and doesn't light up other ones if you had chosen the other path. If you don't use the correct actions, you will lose out on your optimal damage, so practice is very much needed to get used to the actions for the right situations, paying special attention to what buffs and debuffs are actually deployed, which they just removed from Monk, as we just saw. But they say the job HUD will guide you which direction to go with your abilities, but yes, that remains to be seen. Ranged physical DPS then. General points then include second wind healing potency increased in the level 90s level range, and the damage reduction of job exclusive defensive abilities will be increased to 15% in the 90s level range, again much like the other roles. First off then, we talk about Bard. Mage's Ballad, Army's Peon, and the Wanderer's Minuet will be changed into buffing actions which do not attack enemies. Pitch Perfect will be changed into an AoE attack for ease of use in encounters with multiple enemies. So I guess we're back to using casted abilities that don't attack, so a bit of a mage Bard, I guess. Can't wait to see what they actually do to the other abilities. Machinist Barrel Stabilizer will no longer increase heat gauge by 50 and will instead allow execution of Hypercharge. Now can be used when the gauge is at 51 or more without waste, they say, and a new trait which accumulates charges for drill will be added. Dancer then, a new action that can be executed after Flourish is being added, and a new action which consumes a spirit, or esprit if you want to pronounce it that way, can be executed after Technical Finish will be added. An action also that grants the effects of Standard Step without actually going through the list of actions in the combo is also being added. So those are some interesting changes to Dancer, but for the most part just upgrades rather than replacements. So upcoming adjustments across the board to magical ranged DPS as a role include Swift Cast Recast will be reduced to 40 seconds in the 90s level range, and Addle's duration will be increased to 15 seconds in the 90s level range, which is pretty awesome. I quite like the idea for Addle to be available more often. First, they start with Black Mage specifically. Various adjustments, they say, will be made to streamline certain aspects of the job, such as restoring MP upon landing ice spells while Umbral Ice is active, instead of passively over time. Additionally, a new action that repositions ley lines beneath the caster will be added. They mention this is moving it only once. So, for example, If a mechanic comes up and it's straight on top of your ley lines, you can move to that safe spot and press this button to move the ley lines to you once per cast of the ley lines for that obvious uptime, which is really good. And yeah, a lot of people criticize them saying, why don't you just make ley lines movable? But that kind of defeats the point of Enochian, so I think this is a better way of doing it. But yes, definitely concerned about the adjustments to streamlining the aspects of a job, and the change to mana is going to be, well, have to try it to find out, definitely. Summoner then, massive changes to Solar Bahamut, which is our new summon. Akin to Bahamut and Phoenix will be added, so that's our sort of ultimate summon. Once again, a new action that can be executed after Searing Light will be added additionally. With the introduction of that new summon, your skill rotations will be updated based on that. They say you start with Solar Bahamut, then Solar Bahamut again, and then Phoenix. It goes in that particular order, apparently. Resurrection is something they talked about removing in 7.0, but they actually changed their mind and have kept it. However, they say there's a high chance in 8.0 expansion, Resurrection may be removed from Summoner. That is a big, interesting topic, and I'd love to know what you think about that. Let me know. Are you happy that you got to keep your Resurrection for one more expansion, or are you you would prefer it to be gone? I don't know. It seems like a pivotal moment to see what kind of DPS Summoner turns into, doesn't it, really? Red Mage then. Manification will no longer increase black mana and white mana by 50. This will instead allow the execution of This will now allow the execution of enchanted swordplay actions without cost. This can now be executed while mana is at 51 or more without waste. The AoE enchanted swordplay combo, beginning with Enchanted Molinet, will now consume a total of 50 black mana and white mana, similar to its single target counterpart. Very interesting. Whenever Emboldened is up as well, there will be an additional attack ability. Again, there'll be lots of other abilities added and different changes, but these are the main ones for all of these jobs. So interesting changes to Red Mage. Pictomancer then prepares by painting a variety of motifs, then renders them to life to produce an assortment of effects. This renders multiple motifs to obviously execute high-powered attacks that you build up for, capable of granting buffs to party and self. So we actually have some in-game footage here. The HUD icons show easels with blank canvases. You're actually drawing 3 types of motifs. There's a creature motif, a weapon motif, and a landscape motif, these drawings. You have 3 canvases from the left. You have your creature, then weapon, then landscape on the right canvas. In order to draw in combat, you will have to actually cast spells. However, outside of combat, if you're just chilling out in a city or something, there's no casting required. You can just chill out. Or again, pre-pull to a fight, you can actually have these drawings already set up. So pre-pull, you would want to draw first. We'll get to that in a second. The hotbar then, as you can see, the top hotbar on control 8, 9, and 0 is they have pom-pom for their creature, hammer is the weapon, and landscape is the landscape. So after pressing the pom-pom ability, we've actually filled one of the canvases with a creature. Now you press the hammer, which fills canvas 2, and a landscape for the 3rd canvas. These are instant casts. When you press them, there's no cast time for those. Now we have those motifs painted and stored. So we press a skill rotation and the buttons get replaced as we go for the next options, as you would imagine. The palette job gauge will fill up, which is another part of this job gauge, and it's related to colors. So there's this thing called the ether hue gauge. That's what they're calling it. We have blue here, which allows for the execution of a skill. The rainbow part of the gauge, by consuming 50 charge off a palette, activates a way to change that color, which allows for other spells. So white in this idea here is holy. With the subtractive palette button, it will invert this into thunder, which is a magenta color. Apparently comet is black, and things like that. There might be other colors, who knows. You try to fill your palette and rainbow gauge and then cast more ether hue skills. So that's how it basically works. Some of the sub actions on here, such as the abilities to allow you to move close to a target you're facing. So this isn't a direct target. This is a face attacks, kind of like a dash from Dancer. This also increases your movement speed for a limited time. They say that goes quite far, and the likelihood is you might fall off a platform, so be careful. And the top row of the hotbar features some of these AoE abilities. So with the Pictomancer motifs we drew earlier, we're getting to that bit now. These aren't in any order here or connected. They just allow for abilities. So the canvases aren't connected. You just have a creature, a weapon, and a landscape. That's basically it. Starting with a creature motif with the pom-pom, you can press Control 4 here on this demonstration to render this to life. So there'll be a button for each one of these to bring it to life separately for a creature, a weapon, and a landscape. When you press this, then it's creating a pile of poms raining down on your enemies. The motif is now blanked, and that is a blank canvas for the next creature to be used. You can then create another creature motif. This time they got the wing. So there we go. We press the wing motif, and now it's stored on that canvas. If you render the wings out now, you'll see that additionally, not only is it doing that damage from that wing attack, but a new UI element has stored of what we've used so far, so it's remembering. So we've got a pom and then the wings. Because the pom and the wings together creates a Moogle, a little Moogle icon appears above the gauge that tells you that Moogle is ready to be cast. This means you can now press the big button at the bottom there to render the Moogle in. So on this, it's Control 1 to do a big devastating attack. So basically, you can, build up different spells, different motifs combined together, and then you can create a bigger motif from that, a bigger picture, if you will, building up to the bigger picture. Now they store a picture of a claw, which is the next creature card they got, if you want, or render of art, and render this in with a claw attack that claws the enemies. And then they draw fangs, which renders in a fang attack, which bites the enemy. And now you'll see the UI has changed because we had Claw and Fang, which we've created a creature called a Medine. And when you press this, it summons in the Medine and does an attack. So weapon motifs are next then, since we've talked about creatures so far. This allows us to render the hammer here as an attack. This has 3 charges that allows for a combo of attacks with the same button. So this is used for moving around and mechanics where you can't stand still and doing consistent damage at the same time. So big AoEs are dropping underneath you. You need to move. You can use the hammer, 3 charges of that to fill in that gap of damage otherwise that would be there. So that's how the weapon motifs work. They're basically your off-global movement abilities, instant casts. The landscape motif then is responsible for your party buffs. You can also use it for an attack as well as a party buff. So the buff you can apply to the party will allow for your ether hue on the palette to be cast without longer cast times. So this is useful for a burst at the start of the battle, starting with your optimal damage output. So they show an example of what a rotation might look like. It looks quite complex, but honestly looks quite fun for me. I'm kind of understanding it the more I look at it, especially with the footage. But maybe pre-pull, you would create all of your motifs, and then you would start with your landscape to put the buff down, and then immediately go into a burst phase, obviously with as much damage as possible. Then use your other motifs to get your other abilities ready, so that when you have to move for an activity like an AoE or something, you've got your hammer, things like that. Build up your creatures and deploy those big hitting attacks like your pom. So pretty cool, actually. I quite like it. It seems like a cross between a black mage and a red mage with a bit of summoner mixed in. It looks fun. It's fun, and the UI is really well designed. I think you'll agree probably. Again, I need to test it, so hopefully when I get a hands-on with that in the future, when the game comes out, we can work on doing some guides or something. I don't know. It looks quite enjoyable. I would definitely play it if I wasn't required to be a healer for my static. Moving on then specifically to healers. Healers overall have had their swift casts recast time reduced to 40 seconds in 90s level range, which is really nice. So you'll be able to res people more frequently, obviously, or if you're doing a rotation that needs it. White Mage then, specifically, a new action is being added that allows the caster to quickly move forwards will be added. This is Icarus for White Mage. I wanted a movement-based ability for my main job. I've got it. Fantastic. Additionally, a new AoE attack, which can be executed up to 3 times after Presence of Mind, will be added, which is interesting. AoE-wise, I don't know where this fits in. It depends on the potency, but traditionally, you know, dotting things up and spamming Holy is the way to go for AoE, but I guess, I don't know, maybe this is something that also gives charges or something. I don't know, but I'm excited for a new attack anyway. That sounds quite fun. Moving on to Scholar then, Seraphism is a new action that changes the caster's appearance and enhances healing magics. Will be added to the game. This turns you into basically an angel, enhances your healing power, your potency basically. Pretty cool, honestly. As far as things go. A new AoE attack is being added that can be executed after Chain Stratagem as well. And that's pretty much all we got for Scholar in terms of news, but a lot of people are liking the Seraphism. Let me know what you think. Moving on to Astrologian then, oh dear. The card system will no longer be random and will instead simultaneously draw cards with offensive, defensive and curative effects. They're dividing the cards into 3 different groups, as we've said, so offensive, defensive and curative, with up to 4 cards each. You can then pull a group at any time every 60 seconds rather. And you can pull a group at a time every 60 seconds. All of the effects of these cards was a buff to damage increases traditionally, but now that's being limited to only certain cards. Now some will be curative, some will be defensive, and some will be offensive. You can use those 4 cards in that 60-second window, which is an interesting decision. I'm sure many people will have opinions on that. Astrodyne is being removed from the game in accordance with the discontinuation of Astro Signs. Oh boy. Oh boy. And that's all we got for Astro. Basically, things are being gutted. It's not the update I wanted for Astro, personally. Let me know what you think, but I think a lot of people are going to be unhappy. I guess we'll just have to wait and see when we see, you know, the job page updated with all of the actions. But yeah, on paper, that doesn't look very good. Sage then, another one of my favorites. Eucrasia will now enhance Dicrasia 2 into Eucrasian Dicrasia, which is an AoE attack that deals damage over time to enemies within range. So we've got an AoE dot. Holy moly, that's actually kind of badass. I love that. There's also a new party buff, which heals nearby party members whenever the caster casts a spell, will be added. I mean, that's really good. That could be really powerful. Whenever the caster casts a spell, it's basically like, it's like AoE Cardia? That's really interesting. And then apparently there's a trait that you get that shortens the time to cast Soteria to enhance Cardian. So, yeah, I guess we're just going to be DPSing more because all of the heals are going to come from us passively, even more than they already do. Huge buffs, in my opinion. I can't wait to see what they play like. I love Sage. It's great. Viper and Pictomancer will be added in 7.0, obviously. Both jobs will have their own respective PvP actions and limit breaks. New PvP actions and action adjustments and adjustments to existing maps are actually planned for 7.1. So things will kind of be in a bit of a weird state for 7.0. It might not be perfect. 7.1 is when they're actually adjusting things properly, I guess, for a new season. Crystalline Conflict ranked matches will be in pre-season between 7.0 to 7.1. Rankings will not be updated, but the tiers and crystal credit will be affected by wins and losses. So again, like I say, it's kind of like their initial go at it, and then by 7.1, with the start of a new PvP season for Crystalline Conflict, things will be changed again, reflective of what they've tested, which is a good idea. So then they briefly talk about a storyline element, kind of, sort of mini spoiler. Bakul Jaja and Koana are new story characters, and apparently these characters will be helping the player character to the race with respective NPCs to the throne of Tulialal, and that's pretty much all they mentioned there. And that's basically all of the live letters main meat. Announcements: Fall Guys event is coming back. This starts on the 23rd of May, which is a Thursday, and lasts until June the 10th. There is a plan to do this on and off at 3 or so months at a time, they say, so it will come back again beyond this. They don't say if there's any new additions to that event, any new items or rewards. Again, we're still waiting for a Lodestone post to clarify if there are any changes or if it is just the same event. But they did mention it's probably just the original event because of people missing it prior to Dawn Trail's release, and obviously people being unsubbed. So that's one of the reasons it's coming back, probably in its initial form. But I personally would love to see some new rewards. But anyway, next, disappointingly for me, a USA-only crossover with Mountain Dew, the drink company, yes. The Mountain Zoo mount, yes, I'm not making that up, and sparkling citrus refreshment item will be available in the game. This starts on May the 16th and ends on July the 14th. This crossover allows you to get codes from special caps underneath special editions of Mountain Dew drinks to get points. You can then redeem these points for in-game rewards such as that Mountain Zoo mount, which is, I guess, cool. Hopefully we get that in the future globally. I really don't like regional locked things. Apparently European regions have not been forgotten, and there will be a collab for us next, they say, but they don't say what that will be. I would prefer if we just had global access to all of this with different retailers, but that's just me. New merch released here with a Laporit plushie available for pre-order, cable clips for cable management, and a Azem crystal if you're interested in that. And then talk about the Immerse Game Pack collaboration, a way to enhance the HRTF quality of sound on your game. You can visit the website on screen for more details. A Primals Japan-only concert dates if you want to go see them live. Definitely a treat to see the Primals. I remember from FanFest how good it was to watch them live. Definitely don't miss out on that if you're in Japan. The KFC collab returns, again for Japan only. Still no global news for the Eat Chicken emote. Very sad about this. Hopefully we get the Eat Chicken emote globally because we all enjoy KFC, or at least I do. Where's my emote? Where is it? And finally, a full schedule of everything upcoming to the game, including the launch of Dawn Trail is shown here, additionally with the updates for the Fall Guys collaboration and other bits and pieces. The media tour for Japan is currently underway, and there'll be a global media tour extended to Europe in the coming weeks, of which a lot of the information from that apparently will be released early June, so probably that's the embargo date. Anyway, let me know what you're most excited for. There's quite a lot of information in this. I hope I did the best I physically could and represented the live letter. I know this is still like a 30+ minute video. Forgive me, I can't make it any smaller without skipping more details. Much love, enjoy the rest of your day. Let me know what you think, what you're excited for the most. For me personally, Pictomancer looks amazing. Can't wait to play it. Much love. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.